Well, earlier I spoke to the Chancellor, who was in Telford, unveiling that very same poster you saw in Kieran's piece. I began by asking him just how honest he was prepared to be about future public spending. What exactly was he planning to cut and what protect?
Well, we're very clear that more difficult decisions are required in order to stay on this road to a stronger economy. And in the end, that is the choice that the British people are going to face in this election year. Do we want the economic competence of the government's long-term economic plan and David Cameron's leadership, or do we want the chaos of the alternatives and higher borrowing and higher taxation and the pretense that there are easy answers to Britain's economic challenges? We're being very straight with people that there's a clear choice, there are difficult decisions, but if we take those difficult decisions, we can stay on that road to recovery.
Well, will you be honest about the scale of departmental budget cuts that will be required? I mean, your spending plans look at potentially more than 40% budget cuts. So police, local government and justice budgets would be cut by £60 billion by 2019-2020.
Well, we have to continue reducing the deficit and cutting public expenditure at the same pace that we have achieved over this Parliament. And during that period, actually, satisfaction with local government services has increased. Crime has come down, to use two of the examples you mentioned. So if you are careful about this, if you run your government well, then you can make those decisions and improve public services at the same time. Alongside that, we've made this clear, you should be making savings in welfare so the burden doesn't just fall on government departments, and you should be continuing to take the kind of tough action I've taken on tax avoidance and tax evasion.
Well, your Lib Dem colleagues don't see it as a very balanced approach. I mean, the Business Secretary, Vince Cable, talks about your spending plans being wholly unrealistic. Your colleague in the Treasury, Danny Alexander, says you want the willful destruction of public services. And your former deputy says that you've written a political suicide note which makes Thatcherism look like a policy devised by Tony Benn.
Well, look, all the political parties in this election are going to be setting out their stall, but I'd say there's a pretty clear choice between the competence of David Cameron and the Conservatives and the chaos of the alternatives, which involve higher taxation and higher borrowing.
Well, if you don't like hearing it from politicians, what about the Institute of Fiscal Studies, which has accused you of cuts on a colossal scale, a fundamental reimagining of the role of the state? I mean, will you admit at least that you want to shrink the state, that that's an ideological choice that you've made?
What I want is a government that the country can afford. In other words, that we are not borrowing and expecting our children and grandchildren to pay off our debts.
So that does
we're
mean
using this period when the economy is growing. Well, what it involves is having a state that we can afford as a country. And we can't go on borrowing, and we've got to reduce our debt. We've got to make sure that we're using these years when the economy is growing to put ourselves in good shape and repair the damage that was done. That in the end, is the environment in which people invest in this country, jobs are created, people have these economic opportunities.
Well, do you want a future where defence spending is dramatically cut? Because that's the clear implication of your honesty there over shrinking the state.
Well, look, the absolute prerequisite of a strong defence, or indeed a strong NHS, a strong education system, is a strong economy. You can't afford any of these things if you don't have a growing economy that people have confidence in, that businesses are growing in, that jobs are being created in.
But seeing defence spending fall below the NATO commitment of 2%, that is something you might have to consider. That's one of those tough choices that you're talking about.
Well, we had the NATO summit and we made our commitment on defence spending. We've had to, by the way, it's a great example of a government budget that was totally out of control, a massive black hole, lots of equipment ordered that couldn't be paid for. We went in there, we've sorted that budget out. We now have an affordable defence budget. We're buying the right equipment for our soldiers and sailors and airmen and women, and we're able to defend our country. But we can do it because we have taken the difficult decisions to get that budget into shape. Just
looking at that pretty road behind you, I'm told that it's an image from a German photographer. Is it a road in Germany, in fact?
It's a British picture, a British road. And look, I think it's a very clear picture of the choice facing Britain, which is, do we stay on the road to recovery, or do we turn back and return to the economic chaos? Britain has been on a journey over the last 5 years. We came out of a terrible economic situation 5 years ago because we took difficult decisions. We had a long-term plan. We've got to stay on that road now.
Chancellor, thank you very much for joining me. And our fact-check team has been running the slide rule over the 3 claims contained on that election poster. To read their analysis, go to channel4.com/news and follow the link.